You should be more fearful about not making profit than not getting the business.
When someone reaches out, was like, oh, can you do this for $40? No, absolutely not. Let me tell you why.
Busy plus broke, it's probably the biggest problem right now.
Just get a little fist bump. Boom.
Clarity, clarity, clarity. And I think the more clear we are in 2026, the more chances we have to succeed.
The mistake we made this year was really just getting on every channel we possibly could. Michael's, Walmart, Amazon, all these channels. It's hard to try to win everywhere.
Every channel, it has their own algorithm. Every channel wants to serve their customer base a certain way. Etsy and Amazon Handmade, you might think to yourself, hey, they're like the same thing, but they're not the same thing. It's a totally different customer base, as we've realized. Where Etsy is more forgiving, Amazon is more cutthroat.
Yeah.
Right? One little mistake on Amazon and they'll cut your feet. We know why we're doing this. And it's not to be the cheapest. It was not uncommon that we used to average anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 a day. We're not BSing, right? We're just not talking fluff. This is not ChatGPT. We come from experience.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode at the Makerflo Making It With Purpose podcast. This one is titled What We Learned in 2025 and How to Succeed in 2026. And what we're going to talk about today is we're breaking down 2025. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, what worked, what didn't work, and how to succeed and come up with a game plan for 2026.
Absolutely. We've done a few episodes now, but it's the end of the year, end of 2025, going into 2026. And the big word of the day today for us is clarity, right? Clarity in your business, clarity in your vision, clarity in your pricing, in your marketing, clarity, clarity, clarity. And I think the more clear we are in 2026, the more chances we have to succeed.
I love it. Clarity. That's the hot take on this one. So let's get into it. All right, John. So 2025, it was for us, it was a lot of learnings. I think a lot of difficult challenges that we came across, and I want to keep this episode very practical and kind of set the frame on the 5 categories that we're going to break down and talk about what worked for Makerflo, what didn't work, how small businesses and customization shops can kind of learn from our mistakes, from our positives, and take that into their own businesses and grow. And so I want to break down the 5 categories that we're going to get into. It's kind of discuss a little bit of where to sell, like what worked, what didn't work for us, what to sell, kind of stay in your lane, not stay in your lane. The pricing and how to price your products, super important.
Big one.
Social media, a little bit about, how do you stay active on there and what do you do? What do you post?
It's a confusing one.
And what worked for us at Makerflo, kind of just talk about, some other items as well. So category 1, where to sell. Let's get into that. So for Makerflo, 2025 was a lot of challenges, I feel like, in the different channels that we were spread across. And I would say we got spread thin at different channels to sell our products. Right. And so one might think, well, if I get on every marketplace and every channel, then that's more eyeballs, that's better, that's only more opportunities for me and my small business. But what challenges did Makerflo come across, and what challenges can a potential small business come across when they decide to just get on every channel and marketplace to sell their products?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that's a great problem to have, is understanding that there are more channels out there. I think it's the way to look at it for us was, hey, there's more viewership, there's more impressions we can get, and that's fantastic. And it makes you almost want to jump out of your seat and be on every channel. But there's massive challenges with that, right? Every channel, it has their own algorithm. Every channel wants to serve their customer base a certain way. Now, even if a channel is like, let's say if we just take Etsy and Amazon Handmade, you might think to yourself, hey, they're like the same thing, but they're not the same thing. It's a totally different customer base, as we've realized, where Etsy is more forgiving, Amazon is more cutthroat.
Yeah.
Right? One little mistake on Amazon and they'll cut your feet. And one little mistake on Etsy and it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of the maker community. It's okay.
Yeah, get some forgiveness.
We're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think truly understanding what channel fits you is firstly more important, because we got onto Amazon, in a big way. And for us, it's a little bit different. It's a need. We have to get on Amazon, but Amazon is very demanding. It's very demanding in its requirements. It's very demanding in its fulfillment. the standards on Amazon that people expect, as far as getting the product the way it should arrive, how fast it should arrive. Just everything is just high stakes, right? And we have to adapt to that in order to grow our business. But for a smaller business, that might not be your cup of tea. You know, if you're retired, if you don't like that fast paced environment, you know, Amazon might not be it for you. And you might like Etsy better. But there's platforms, and you'll have to go do that research and find another platform that fits you a little bit better. So I feel like those are a couple of takes from my side, as far as platforms go. But I don't know if you have any hot
Yeah,
take
you
on
know,
that.
for Makerflo this year, a lot of channels, and when we say channels, guys, it's the different marketplaces you can sell on. It's the different opportunities you have to sell, whether that's even in person. That's considered a channel. You know,
Sure.
a channel could be a local, you know, your local sales and doing events and fairs and craft
Sales
shows and
channels.
stuff. Yeah, different
Yeah.
sales channels is what we mean by that. But I think ultimately, it's hard to try to win everywhere.
Correct.
Right? You really need to pick one niche, one channel, and really settle on that. It's very difficult to build a business on borrowed land through a different channel.
Sure.
If you're trying to just build your business just on Etsy, well, Etsy could change their algorithm, and now your whole business has changed.
Yeah.
You really have to build a foundation on I would recommend your own website and your own local sales to build that foundation, and then add channels and marketplaces on top of that. The mistake we made this year was really just getting on every channel we possibly could, Michael's, Walmart, Amazon, all these channels. And then what happens is it's really hard logistically to keep track of all that. When you have a price change, now you've got 8 different channels to go change your pricing.
Yeah.
When something goes out of stock, something might be forgotten to be taken down off of that channel. And it becomes super overwhelming and super challenging to manage those, even with the team that we have. I can only imagine a small business and 1 to 2 people managing all those channels.
Correct.
So my recommendation is just to really narrow it down and solidify those main channels that you want to build your foundation, and then grow from there. Don't get too wild with just getting on every platform at once.
Yeah, I think that's sound advice. And I think another big thing that I realized, I think that the inventory thing is so right. We had so many challenges with that where we just forgot, right? We're like, oh my gosh, I mean, this marketplace. And I think one more thing I want to add to that, what you just said, is it's not that you added 8 products. It's that you added 8 products with 10 variants. And now it's 80 listings or 80 things you have to change. And it's then 10 channels, it becomes 800 changes, right? Mm-hmm. That's a massive lift to change for one product with 10 SKUs, right? And so I think that becomes a massive thing. But I think one other thing that's very important that we learned this year on marketplaces, right, is that marketplaces demand a certain amount of digital assets. What we mean by digital assets is videos, pictures, GIFs, banners, all kinds of things. Anything that's digital, that's for marketing, right? Digital assets. And every platform has its own requirement. And Etsy decided to make a change this year from, I believe, square to more vertical, or they were playing with that, right? And so if you went on Etsy and did a search, everybody had a square image, and then they decided, okay, we're just going to make it a little rectangle to fit mobile, and nobody's pictures look correct because everything got cropped, right? And so the problem becomes when you go cross-channel is everyone has different requirements for what they want. Everyone doesn't want the same thing as far as marketplaces go. And that's a massive uplift because now you have to take, this is all math. If it's one listing with 10 images, and if 10 channels have different requirements, that's taking 10 images and making 10 variations. And now all of a sudden you have 1,000 pictures, right? Just for like one product. So just the uplift is a lot. Now, I don't want people to get discouraged by that. You know, what needs to be done needs to happen, right? However, there's what you're saying is there's a strategy to it. Mm-hmm. If you don't have an extended team, or if you don't have 10 people, just start and perfect one channel. You know, plant that flag, let it wave, you know, get good at it, and then go to the next channel and go slow.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's kind of the advice we're giving is fit to the channel, see the channel you love, optimize it. Don't just put a product, go to the next channel. Optimize one channel at the very least.
I think that's great advice. And I would add to that, you know, when you do decide to grow your channels, you don't have to put every product on the channel. and what we're going to get into next is kind of what to sell. And so my advice would be, you really want to be able to grow without the chaos.
Yeah.
If you're growing and it's chaotic and it's too much to manage, you got to pull back a little bit. So as you expand, don't necessarily put every product you have on those marketplaces. Focus on the winners and start with there and a good foundation.
So I'm so glad you ended with that, because like I said in the beginning, when we enter the podcast, it's all about clarity,
Yes.
right? Be clear on what channel you like, be clear and get on that channel. Have clarity that you're going to organize that channel. Have clarity on what your winners are. Have clarity on where you're making profit. Have clarity on your numbers. On Etsy, the number one thing I see is I sold something. Where did all these fees come from? Like, I sold something for $10, but the ad fee and the seller fee and blah, 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 like, I'm losing money on this.
Every channel has a different fee, so it's difficult.
Yes. So if you're surprised after you sell, it's not a good thing. You need to have clarity on how the channel works. What are the cost structures? What is it demanding out of you? And when you have that clarity, you have more control on that channel, right? You understand that channel. And when you understand that channel, you can do business well on this. And I'm going to add one more thing before we move forward. I always like to say that when we're on this podcast, that we're not BSing, right? We're just not talking fluff. This is not ChatGPT. We come from experience, right? So when we started on Etsy, and this was years ago, it was not uncommon that we used to get 100, 200, 500, 800, or even 1,000 orders a day. We used to pull those numbers. And you might be wondering, is he going to say the dollar amount? Yes, I'm okay to say it. When we were doing those numbers initially on Etsy, it was not uncommon for that to be our daily averages. And just so you guys know, that we used to average anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 a day. Etsy used to do that, right? But it does not anymore.
What happened?
Things have changed. The algorithm has changed. The CEO has changed. Etsy's vision for itself has changed. Mm-hmm. 10, 12 years ago, it used to all be about the small maker. Used to be a small. Now you have POD. Now you have direct from China. Now Chinese, manufacturers are getting in through a UK account on the American. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. The environment has changed. And if we had relied solely on Etsy, it's problematic. Or if we don't understand Etsy, right? If we don't have clarity on the platform, and we're naive to think that it's never going to change, and if we're naive to think that it was going to stay that way forever, then we probably wouldn't have been in business, right? So it's really understanding the platform, really understanding that the marketplace is there for us to be on. It's a privilege to be on. It's a privilege to do business on there, to completely understand the platform and to be ready to pivot and change. You need to have that clarity. And once we mastered Etsy, we did move on to different platforms, and now we have diversity. So if things go up and down everywhere, but we're making sure that, on average, we're going up as a whole, right?
So John, what do you recommend for somebody that's looking for that clarity on different channels? They want to maybe start adding more channels and grow. How do they manage the different products they have, the pricing they have, the fees that are incurred? You mentioned every platform has a different fee. How does somebody manage that themselves as they grow? What do you recommend? A spreadsheet? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do, honestly, is start with two things. What products do you like to work on, right? And what your profitability looks like on those products. Just start with that, because what you just asked me is like 20 different things, right? And I think for a lot of makers, like it just goes like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna put everything, right? You know what? Just start with the 5 things you like, okay? Figure out where you're profitable with it after you understand the fees, after you understand your costs. And we're gonna get into that a little bit later, right? Just start with that, right? Don't put random stuff up there that you don't know that'll sell. Next thing I want you to do is, once you know those products, optimize the imagery, right? The images, your main image for the product is extremely important. Make sure your videos are ready and make sure all that is done. Just work on the 5 and just optimize the platform and understand the platform. That's where you start.
So with AI coming into the picture this year with optimizing images, what do you suggest on somebody using AI for the imagery? And when does that become a little bit too obvious that it's AI? And how does somebody use AI but overcome the fact that people might think it's AI generated? So
I think this really has to do with, going on the platform and seeing what's accepted. So I've been I've been going on Etsy, and I realized we realized on Etsy that the AI images don't work as well because of the clients that are there, right? But then you go on Amazon and it's rampant, and you're like, wow, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that this is what I'm talking about: understanding channel to channel. Going to, and I'm going to give you another hot one. If you're on Amazon, go to Amazon. Search the products that you're doing, and in the filter, there's a bestseller. Go to that bestseller and see what's actually selling really well. Go look at their imagery. Go see what's working, their main image. Just dissect it, and you'll understand yourself if you should, if you shouldn't. Now, if you're a brand, like if you're branding yourself where you don't like AI, or let's say you're one of those, and this is totally fine. If you don't like AI because of its environmental impact, then make sure that the images that you are taking are absolutely beautiful studio images for Amazon, right? For Etsy, it might not be as big of a deal. You need to not be that crazy good on the Etsy platform, but still make sure it looks professional. I see a lot of makers messaging me asking me, hey, why isn't my listing working? And I'll see it, and they just took a picture on their wooden desk that looks so beat up from crafting. And you can make that a beautiful picture, but they just take it as if, yeah, I was just walking by and I took a picture. Put a little work into it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's a straight answer. I think people try to look for it. I think it matters platform to platform.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that. Well, let's move on to the next item, and it's what to sell. And so we talked about the channels. Well, what do you sell on those channels, and how do you stay in your lane? And so as we go into 2026 and to get that clarity, there's really a core 3 rule that we want to talk about what to sell. And that core 3 rule entails the evergreen products, and those are basically your best sellers. Then you're going to have your seasonal products, and then you're going to have your profit booster add-ons. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about that, and what advice do you have for makers out there when it comes to the core 3?
Well, I I appreciate you asking me this question, but I think I would love to talk about the evergreen. I'll let you handle the other 2 because I feel like you've always handled the marketplaces and the platforms, and you've always added products to it. You're so much deeper into it, so I'll let you handle that. But let me talk a little bit about evergreen bestsellers, because that's something both of us talk about a lot. It's a big part of, obviously, at Makerflo, what we do, right? Because we need the evergreen products because we know they work for our makers, right? And so evergreen products, what we mean at Makerflo are those products that are here to stay for a long time, right? They're the products that are your bread and butter. They're the products that are profitable. They're the products that you're comfortable with. They're the products that really work in the market. So you've proven it. So basically, it's a sure shot product that's here to stay, right? And you need your evergreen products because that is your foundation for your sales. Those are the products that you depend on, rely on, and that keep the lights on guaranteed, right? And for Makerflo, that's a few product lines. For us, we know our evergreen products are the Maker Twist tumblers, right? We do our best to stay in stock. We market it. We put a lot of effort into this product line because we know we've come up with something that's patent pending, being the twist on and twist off handles. And that's something that sells well. We've gotten great feedback, so we know the makers are depending on it. And on the other side of things, I know that we have a great manufacturer that we've worked on for years, right? So for us, that becomes an evergreen line. Some other things where we have that are evergreen for Makerflo, again, is our marble line. Mm-hmm. And I think our marble line came in, right? We intentionally wanted to be an evergreen product. We wanted it to because we loved it so much when we came up with it. And then you guys, the makers, got a hold of it, and you guys turned our hopes and dreams into reality with making it an evergreen line because it's selling so well and we've gotten great feedback. So evergreen bestsellers for us is it's a bestseller on your end, but it's also where we have the power, where we have, the manufacturer to make it a wonderful product. And for you guys, the same thing. You guys have the supplier, and then you guys have the buyer, and the product's working for you, and it will work for a long period of time. Yeah. So that becomes evergreen. But evergreen, that I think that's like your foundation. You're foundational. But the foundation sometimes, as we've realized in our businesses, it sometimes wavers, right? You'll stick behind it, but they're not always winners. And for that reason, we have the next 2. So
yeah. Well, I just wanted to add to the evergreen part. These are products that you can sell year round, right? That's what evergreen means. And the product has that flexibility to work for really any different type of occasion. So you have the product, but then you also have the design and what you customize that product with. And so when I think of designs and what evergreen designs there are, makers need to think in the mindset of, okay, what happens year round that I can make this product and this design evergreen? What comes to mind for me is weddings. That happens all year round. Different states have different weather. It's happening all the time, all over the world. You've got birthdays happening every day. You've got new childs being born and births. And then you've got retirements. Like, these are things that are evergreen, happening every day in America and across the world that you need to be catering to. You need to have this dialed in to your evergreen products, your evergreen designs, so you can continuously sell and have a market every day and day on.
Yeah. So I think that actually, not to keep talking about the evergreens, but it almost sounds like you might be able to make any product evergreen, is what you're saying.
Sure.
As long as you have the designs to make it evergreen. You might think it's a seasonal product, like we were talking about hammers.
Yeah.
You know, hammers is a big item for Father's Day, but it's just up to your creativity, how you make it an evergreen product, and it might just come to the design.
Yeah, maybe you find a funny birthday saying, for hammering out your 30th birthday,
Yeah, or don't
funny.
get hammered.
Yeah,
or get hammered.
Yeah, get hammered on your XX birthday. You know?
Yeah.
It just depends on the design too to make it evergreen. So that's a good point.
That's intriguing, and I think if we could be creative and do something different and do that, then that would put you in a whole different echelon as far as 2026 goes.
Yeah. So the core 3 products to sell evergreen, let's get into seasonal spikes. So when I think of seasonal spikes, what comes to mind first to me is the heart-shaped marble board that we recently came out with. So when you think of heart-shaped, Valentine's comes to mind for me. So that can be a very seasonal product for Valentine's Day, but that heart-shaped board could also work for weddings year round. So it's a multi-purpose type of product, but you can really dial in the seasonal product if you have your Valentine's Day designs ready to go for Valentine's Day. So what I suggest for seasonal spikes is really, you need to set that calendar throughout the whole year of all the seasonal things that come along the way and opportunities to sell that product. So you got Valentine's Day, surprisingly enough, around Easter, do you know what happens around Easter?
Baptisms and christenings.
You got a lot of baptisms going on during Easter. So that's something on your calendar you need to have down. You've got Mother's Day, you've got Father's Day. In the summertime, people are out of school, they like to travel. You need to have something going for traveling. Then you've got back to school. You need to have back to school products for kids and for teachers and teacher gifts and teacher appreciation gifts. Then you've got, the holidays coming and everything else. So you really have to dial in your calendar and prepare yourself about 3 to 4 weeks before that seasonal opportunity comes. Because if it comes down to 1 or 2 weeks before, you're already too late. You're already behind schedule. You need to have your designs ready. You need to have your images ready. You need to have your listings ready on your website and your marketplaces ready to go about a month before that season comes. So that way you can start optimizing the keywords and start getting sales and start marketing those products.
Yeah, and I think, again, coming back to clarity, it's having clarity on when that seasonality happens, what maybe 2 or 3 products you're going to focus on. You don't have to focus on all 35 products in your store. Just focus on the 2 or 3, have the best designs, have the best imagery, have the best keywords, optimize for where you're profitable,
Yeah.
And when you do that, I feel like you'd be in the best scenario to take advantage of the seasonality and the spikes.
Exactly. So the core 3, number 3 for us is the profit booster add-on.
Yeah.
So what can you add on to your products or services to boost your profit? So that comes down to additional engravings. Maybe you add an upsell to engrave the backside of a tumbler. Maybe you add an upsell to engrave an additional location on whatever product you're doing, or to customize it in an additional fashion that would be an upsell. You've got upsells that you could package and put a bow tie and tie that package together and gift wrap it for somebody. That's an upsell. You've even got upsell opportunities for speed and services. If somebody needs something same day, next day, that's an opportunity to boost your profits and charge more to that customer.
Yeah. I like, we're in the personalization game. Obviously, I love, all the touches. I love the added packaging. I love the, the note cards that you can add and personalize the note cards. But apart from that, other add-ons could be like, for example, we have the handle board or the charcuterie board, and a lot of people like to add the coasters on them, right? And so you can bundle products in your shop, multiple products, maybe even your most favorite products, and have these offers available, and make sure that you're presenting them in a way that your customer has no doubts that they want it, right? You're creating something so beautiful, full of value, that they're thinking about the value of how their kids or their loved one is going to feel when they get it versus how cheap it is, and focus on that value, the add-ons, and what you've created as a bundle. And I think that could be like your profit booster. And your profit booster is something that you can definitely, you can always, it's not like you have to be like, okay, I'm going to profit boost January, April, and December. No, you can do profit boosters throughout the entire year, whether it's a seasonal spike or it's with your evergreen product. And you can always switch them, turn them around, and make them into whatever you want. And really, make sure on your down weeks or down months, you're differentiating yourself from your evergreen stuff. So there's something new, and you're really going after the market.
When you have a profit booster mentality, you need to think about car dealerships. When you go and buy a new car or a used car, they upsell you on a variety of different things, which is mainly pure profit for them. They've got the warranty. They've got the paint protection film. They've got the tinted windows. I've even seen the upgraded nitrogen, oxygen, air in your tires. These are profit boosters. And if you have that mentality of the car dealership in your personalization business, you can easily get an additional 20, 30, 40% more profit on your products that you're already selling to that customer.
Yeah. So what would you tell somebody that kind of comes to you and says like, Mark, that's great and all, but like I can't even sell a $20 tumbler, let alone, add a bunch of things on top to make it more expensive.
Yeah. Well, to me, that seems like you might be dealing with the wrong clientele. Your market that you're going after, if they're already not accepting that price, you're going after the wrong type of people, and we're going to get into pricing next, actually. So that's a great subject, but I would look for a different clientele and to change your strategy on who you're targeting if they're not accepting what you're currently at. In addition to that, you can also look at, how you're personalizing it. Is there anything different that you can do? Is there a reason why that's not selling? Is it design that you're offering that they're not liking? Is there something additional you can do? But I would also say you can bundle that with other products to get them more intrigued in a total package, and try to get that price to something that they might be willing to do. Maybe the $20 tumbler is not for them. So then you can package a couple other products.
Gotcha. Well, I think we could wrap this category up with, again, I don't know if you want to go over the three real quick, as far as, what your core three rules.
Yeah. Core three rule in 2026, evergreen bestseller, got your seasonal spike products, and you've got your profit boosters that you can add on to upsell.
Awesome. And have clarity on all those. So if Marc comes to you and asks you what are your core threes, make sure you have your 3 evergreen, your 3 seasonal, and your 3 profit boosters. And if you're a bigger shop, obviously you can have more than 3, but we're at least giving you, a little bit of a challenge to at least have 3 in each.
All right, let's move on to the next one. So this one, I know that you're excited about this one, John. You take this one to heart. So pricing for profit is our next category that we're going to get into. And oftentimes we see makers just really underprice their products, and mainly because they have no idea of how to price their products, or what mentality and what thought process do you need to have to figure out what price to come up with. Because most people will just go out there and look at what the competition's doing and then just price it on a high, low, or mid-range based on that. So let's dive in a little bit deeper and kind of understand what advice we give to makers, and kind of also touch base on what Makerflo is doing regarding pricing. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I think I almost need an intermission before we start this one. This might be an hour by itself of me just talking. I just want to give a little pre-warning on this section, is that I'm not coming at you. I don't mean anything negatively. This is just straight out of experience that, we're going to be talking about this. And we're going to say things in this category that it might look like we might be attacking you, but we're not, we swear. Okay. So when it comes to pricing, this category is pricing for profit. let's just talk about pricing. One of my biggest things that I hear in our industry is that folks folks are always asking what to charge, right? And the biggest thing like that I feel is if you're asking quite a bit on what to charge, you don't have clarity on your cost,
Yeah.
right? You don't have clarity on your financials. You don't have clarity on your business in some aspects, and it's okay. Like it's not like it's the end of the world, but it's something that you need to have clarity on, right? If you ask you and I, hey John, what should we price this at? Well, it's not gonna work for you. If you have 2 machines, we have 6. The pricing model for what I can do versus what you can do is completely different.
Yeah.
I see so much in the group chats. Hey, what would you price this at? And somebody says 20, and they're like, that's crazy. Why would you say 20? You know what? If it was Marc and I would charge 15. A lot of people are going to have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Everyone's different. Everyone's got different overhead. Everyone's got different labor costs for their employees. Everyone's got a different market that they're in and what that market can afford. Somebody in New York City, they're going to have a bigger income and a bigger budget than, somebody in a smaller town out in Wyoming.
Correct. But the key part about all this is understanding your numbers, right? And what I want to go over is just real quick is I'm gonna try to keep it simple, but I wanna go over a very basic, again, very basic. So if you're an accountant out there, chill, but a very basic way of how, I like to do pricing, right? And so the first number that I would love everyone, you want to pause this video, you can. The first number that I want you to figure out is what is your idle cost, okay?
Idle.
Your idle cost. And what that means is, or I also like to call it the babysitting cost. And what that means is if you're sitting on your chair and you're sitting in your shop, in front of your machines, idly, not doing a single thing. And this is why I also call it babysitting. If you're just babysitting your machines and they're not doing anything, what is your monthly cost going to be? Okay. So if you're at your house, right, and there's no other income, okay, and you're just chilling there, not doing it, not lifting a finger, you're sitting idle, what is your cost? That is your fixed cost. Okay. Your mortgage, your electricity, your this. Basically, what is the cost that you need to pay to keep the lights on so you can stay in front of your machine idly? Okay. So for the most part, I'm just going to throw a number out there because obviously we're going to have viewers of all financial standard, but let's say hypothetically it's $5,000. That includes your lease on your machines, let's say your mortgage, your electric bill, food, your car payment, your insurance, blah, 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 blah. Let's say it's $5,000 a month. Okay. We're going to calculate a number together here. Okay. And if you're not motivated or you felt like you weren't motivated in 2025, I want you to calculate this number for 2026. If you get freaked out with numbers, just wait a little bit. Okay. So just just skip this part, close your ears.
Should I get a calculator out?
Let's get a calculator. So let's say if you're at home, right? And let's say that your monthly cost, fixed cost, if you sat idle or if you're babysit your machines, it's 5,000. There's 160 working hours in the month.
40 hours a week.
40 hours a week times 4 weeks. So 160 working hours. So if you take 5,000 divided by 160, what does that come out to?
So 5,000 monthly divided by 160 hours monthly is 31.25.
So your hourly cost for not getting a sale is $32 an hour. So if you just sit there at home and do nothing, you're literally just paying $32 an hour. Okay? Now, if you're in a home where you have multiple incomes, so let's say if your husband or wife works, split the costs in half.
Okay.
So that'll be 2,500 divided by 160. So that'll bring you to $16 an hour.
Okay.
Okay? That's your cost. I think that's super important to know at a very base level, right? Now, the reason why I like to calculate this cost is because there's so many people that ask, how do I price a product?
Okay.
Okay.
So we've set the baseline at $32 an hour is what you need to make just to pay your babysitting fee.
Your babysitting fee. Correct. So that is your fixed cost. So let's just pick signs, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to what do I do when my machine is cutting for an hour, right? And there's this thing where it's like, well, I could be doing other things, so I don't charge for the machine time. Well, let me just put this very straight to you. If you're cutting a sign for an hour and going and cooking, you need to charge for the machine time, because you're not making that money for an hour. If you're running the machine for an hour, and if you're doing something else that's making money during that hour, then perhaps you can charge a little bit less. Mm-hmm. But if that machine is running, you need to charge for machine time, because guess what? If you're sitting idle, you're getting charged that hourly expense. No one is going like, oh, John didn't do anything, so he's not going to get charged $32 an hour. Nobody cares. You're going to get charged that $32 an hour. So that machine is costing you hourly. So if something is costing you hourly, wouldn't you charge for it hourly? It's just really that simple, mm-hmm. right? If it's costing you hourly, you're going to charge it hourly, right? If you have a team member and they're working for you and they're not doing anything for an hour, are you just going to be like, oh, no, I'm not going to pay you? No, it doesn't work like that, right? You can't do that. So you have to charge for the machine time.
Okay.
It's super important. So let's do some quick math. If you're costing $32 and you're making a sign and it takes 1 hour to engrave that sign, your cost is $32 to make that sign, right? That's not even added to your profit.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question to you is, Mark, how much do you want to make per hour?
And that could range for everybody,
Right. So let's say if you're at home,
yeah,
right, and you want to make $60 an hour.
Okay.
Okay. You take 60 plus 32, that puts you at $92 an hour. So if a sign took you 1 hour to make, okay,
yeah,
you have to charge $92 plus the cost of the material.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. Is like, what about the cost of the materials or the product itself?
Correct. Okay. So at $92, let's say if you spent cutting a sheet of true flat is $5.25. You're looking at $100 price.
Okay.
And that's what you have to charge. Because guess what? You should be more fearful about not making profit than not getting the business. I really want you to understand that. You need to be more fearful of being unprofitable than having no business.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, basically if you're busy but broke, you've got a pricing and processing problem. You're not charging enough. I hear oftentimes the makers are like, oh, I'm so busy, but then they don't have enough money to buy more stock and more machines and to upgrade their processing. You're busy but broke, you're doing it the wrong way. You should be busy and profitable and have the clarity in your pricing so you can grow your business.
Correct. And Marc, I think what a lot of folks, I see when they're scaling their business, a big part about scaling your business is the ability to have the capital. Okay, is the ability to have the capital to have enough stock for the spikes. In our core 3 model, we talked about seasonal spikes. Mm-hmm. A seasonal spike happens. It's fantastic. You'll get the orders. But do you have the capital to acquire that inventory for that seasonal spike? Right? And I think at Makerflo, something we see is that folks wait to get the orders for themselves before they're ordering from Makerflo. And sometimes we'll run out of product. And I've talked to a lot of makers that say, well, I'm like, the orders are coming in and they're buying it as they come in, right? And a lot of times we want to catch these spikes, when you want to catch these trends, you have to be ready with inventory.
You got to take a little bit of risk.
Right. But the only way to do that is if you're profitable. If your cash flow is negative, you cannot, stock up inventory.
Yeah.
It becomes difficult. Or let's say if you have only a little profitability and you stock up of inventory, then who's going to pay the bills? So this is why that statement I made, profitability is very important. Clarity on your numbers, clarity on your core three, clarity in all these things will lead you to having cash flow, to lead you to having profitability. When you have those things, now you have clarity in mind. And why is that important? Because then you can have more clarity and you can plan for your future. You can plan for your business. And instead of the business running you, you should be running the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. That's good stuff, John. So what would you say when somebody does start to scale their business and maybe they need to add a team member or an employee to the shop? Do they add that to their babysitting cost?
Yeah, absolutely. Something that when I do pricing, especially when we were at your house, I used to always add an employee cost.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because and at the time it was profit for us, but it allowed us to price our products for growth. And I think that was the most important part. And another thing that I want to say, and this is a whole mentality thing on pricing, don't be fearful of high prices, right? You had asked me a question in the beginning about Makerflo and prices, right?
Yeah.
We had been fearful at Makerflo on raising prices. But that's because we were focusing so much on our competition. Mm-hmm. We were focusing on products that were being sold direct from China. We were focusing on things that we weren't even making, right?
Yeah.
We're making this tumbler and we're focusing on a $3 tumbler. Well, it's not even apples to apples, right? It's like apples and oranges. The quality of our product from inside out, we know exactly what we've built. We know it's not the same thing over here.
Yeah.
If they want to sell a $4 tumbler, and if a maker wants to sell that $4 tumbler, that's fine. It's like you said earlier, maybe that's not our customer, and that's okay. We're going to sell on value. We're going to sell on why we're here, right? We have a lot of experience in this industry. We know what works and what succeeds. And we speak to makers that don't start with price. Mm-hmm. They start with the features of the product, the USPs of the product, why it's valuable for their client, how their clients can succeed. The conversation is not, we're getting this because it's the cheapest. The conversation is, we're getting this because your products elevate our brand.
Yes.
Right? And when you get into business to elevate everyone around you, to elevate companies, to elevate brands, we were in the category of pricing for profit. We're talking about elevating brands, right? Then pricing becomes easy, right? We've made a conscious decision to not focus on the cheapest. We want to focus on quality, on branding, on really high impact products that really help our makers to sell. The product sells itself, yes. Right? That's what we're really focused on. And we want our makers to be focused on that as well. Don't be stuck on price. If you have the right customer, the right client, they're going to understand that the product is for them to grow them as a business, and price will not be a sticking point. And if it is, like you said before, you can tell them that the products that I'm selling, is not, it's high quality, it's not something I sell. You're more than welcome to go to Amazon, and you're more than welcome to, and you know what? I would love for you to tell that story. You told me a story yesterday, and I mean, it's a phenomenal story. I would love for you to tell that
Which
story.
one?
The one about the decanter sets, how we have our blanks, and somebody went out of the way to, so.
Okay. Well, I think it comes down to really being confident in the product you're selling and selling on quality and not on price. Mm-hmm. When somebody reaches out to me and wants a better price on the product, that gets me going, because I don't think of how to make it cheaper. No, I think of what I'm standing behind on that product and why that product is better than the competition out there. So what do? I break down the reasons, the USPs, the benefits of why that product is so much better and why you should be paying this price. And I don't come down. If I'm ever going to come down, it's only going to be because I'm asking them to buy a lot more than what they initially asked for. Mm-hmm. That's the only opportunity I'm going to come down. But when someone reaches out, was like, oh, can you do this for $40? No, absolutely not. Let me tell you why. It's this, this, and this that makes it better than anyone else. And if you find it cheaper somewhere else, all the best and luck to you, and I hope it works out for you.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I did that the other day to somebody, and 3 weeks later, she came back and said, you know what, it didn't work out with the other seller, and I'd love to work with you. But on the example that you're talking about, I was working with a maker that was working on a big order for a professional sports team. And they were getting this quotation together for an entire decanter set. It was like 200 decanter sets that we were discussing. And she was making sure we had the inventory for it and everything. And she was telling me about the order and the opportunity. And she did a whole presentation to this professional sports team and sent the bid out to them. And it was getting ready to make samples and everything and was negotiating on the prices and stuff. Well, the company ended up ghosting her. And she was reaching back out to them, asking like, hey, is this something you still want to do? Are you still interested? And they kindly told her we decided to go with somebody else. And then they mentioned that we received the product that we ordered from somebody else, and we wish we would have went with you, because what they had received wasn't the same quality that this lady was perceiving and showcasing to them.
Yeah.
And so they made that mistake. They had that guilty purchase that they made. And so, and that's something that it's an opportunity for her to get that customer back the next time, because now they trust her and the quality and what she's presenting.
And that's what you said at the end. That's it right there.
Get the trust.
It's
on the quality.
Exactly. You stood your ground. You knew what you had. You didn't bow down to somebody else's pricing because they were pricing it based on their quality.
Yeah.
And now your customer knows, like, wow, this person's willing to tell me no, which means that you're an honest person. Like, you're standing your ground.
Yeah. How often does that happen? It doesn't happen that often. When have you ever asked for a discount, someone say like no? And if they do say no, it's like, wait a second, this is different.
Yeah.
This person's different. Why did they just say no? They really trust their product. They really stand behind it. They're really confident of their product. And that, and to me, is intriguing to understand more about that product and that service.
Absolutely. And guys, there's a way to say the no. You can't be a prick about it.
Yeah.
You know, just be like, no, that's ridiculous. No. There is a finesse to it. And the way you did it is like, hey, this is what I offer. There's a lot of value in this, and I know I'm offering you the best for a price that works for both of us. And there's a way to say the no. You can't just be like, this is ridiculous. No, they're not going to come back.
Well, what you can include in that no is the Makerflo free sell sheets that show all the features and benefits of that product.
Yes.
And what a beautiful presentation that is when you're submitting the bid. Is like, unfortunately, I can't come down to that price, and this is the reason why. By the way, here's a mock-up of what that would look like for you. Here's everything that comes with it, and this is why this product is premium.
Well, and yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is the reason we made the sell sheet.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a sales pitch for you, and whether it's a yes or a no, send it to them, because guess what? They're gonna have it in their inbox forever. So when they go back to you, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, yeah, this was that person that gave me that sheet with all the USPs, and boom,
yeah,
it makes a huge impact.
There will always be those Temu and Alibaba buyers out there. There will always be that need for that market. And those customers are going to come across your desk. And it's up to you to make that conscious decision of if you want to bow down to those Temu customers just wanting the cheapest price and get the cheapest product, or if you're going to elevate yourself to a premium quality product at a premium luxury price.
You bringing that up, I was thinking about this last week. I am grateful, and Temu, if you're watching this, because you follow our podcast incessantly, if you're watching this, thank you for existing. Because if you guys didn't come around, we wouldn't have realized as a company that our products are a step above, and our industry deserves better. And we build the product on value. We build the product because we know what your customers want, and it's not the cheapest product. We know why we're doing this, and it's not to be the cheapest. So I appreciate it. I invite it. If you buy from Temu, we have no problems with it, because we know what you're buying and we know what you're selling.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that. And guys, this is the clarity that I'm talking about. We get it, and we're fine with it, right? We're more expensive. It's okay. Why? Because I could sleep at night knowing exactly what I've built, exactly what I'm selling. We're profitable, right? And that's super important, because guess what? I want to make sure we can still do lunches every day. I want to still make sure we're treating our team well. I want to make sure we can provide healthcare. All these things cost a lot of money. And if we're not profitable, it becomes scary. And I'm done with the days of trying to bending backwards, where we're pricing things for something that we don't believe in. If you're pricing yourself, losing money, that's not what I believe in. I don't believe in not giving healthcare to Danny. I don't believe in not giving lunch to Jesse. No, I believe in those things, and I got to be profitable to do it. So if that means valuable products and being a very sustainable and green company means I have to charge a little bit extra for it, I'm down for that. And I hope that, our viewers see that, and I hope it comes out that way and we express that the best we can, because I think that does make a difference.
Can we get a little cheer in the background here on that one? Jesse, Danny, what do you think? Yeah. Amen to that. Well, I mean, that the pricing is, it's something we're passionate about, obviously, and we spend a good chunk on that. But let's move on. Let's move on to the next category here and touch base a little bit about social media. And so, how has social media evolved in 2025? Where do you see it going in 2026? What can somebody do differently that they weren't doing before that you think they should do in 2026? And what have you seen out there, like on the social media channels?
Yeah. I think social media is a monster, right? And I think we could spend so much time with it. But
let's find
for that. I actually want to simplify this category if we can.
Yeah. Because
I think if I want to provide clarity and be very concise, right? With social media, if it's intimidating to you, pick one channel. Pick the channel, do some research where the customer that you want to sell to and the products you have both match.
Okay.
Right. So the customer you want to sell to, go to ChatGPT, go to wherever, do your research, figure out the demographics. So if it's Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, whether it's TikTok Shop, whether it's Instagram, wherever your customer base is, just pick one of where you feel that your customer base exists. Right. And make sure that you're consistent on that platform and just optimize that platform for now. I would say that's a great starting point. And in 2026, that's what's gonna make you successful. But I know we have a few more points. So how about you kind of talk about a little bit about what to do on social media as far as authenticity and content?
Yeah, well, there's basically 3 content pillars that we like to go by when it comes to content. And the first one is behind the scenes. And that really brings the personality, the real person, to your content and to your social media. And so, you're already doing it, right? You're already doing your day-to-day, creations and making stuff, but let's record that. Let's show the behind the scenes. People are so intrigued when it's just raw and authentic. And if you can showcase, the behind the scenes that people don't always see, that's people like that stuff. They'll just sit there and watch that all day because they've never seen it before, and seeing a laser machine go and seeing how it engraves, like that's always mesmerizing, and seeing a product really come to life and showing that behind the scenes is something that we're recommending to makers to do. And we do it here. We show how we package an order, how we pick an order. We show our warehouse, we show our processes, right? And we show all these things because there's really nothing to hide. If anyone else wants to go out there and start a Makerflo, they can do it.
Sure.
By all means, go for it. This is how we're doing it. We're okay showing you that. And you should have that same mentality as a maker yourself. It's like, yeah, this is behind the scenes. This is how I'm doing it. This is the machines I'm using. If you want to go make it yourself, by all means, go buy that $10,000 machine and do it yourself. More than likely that viewer is going to be like, no, I don't want to do that. You seem like the expert on it. Thanks for showing me everything. Thanks for being authentic with me. I'd rather just order it from you.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And along that, the education would be the second pillar, really educating your customers and your viewers on what you're doing and how you're doing it and the processes involved with that and what makes that product different, than anything else. And I think that's different because when people shop online, they're usually just seeing pictures. You're just swiping through the Amazon listing, seeing pictures, but when you can actually add video to it and voice and speak to your customers and add that element, that can really raise the level of conversion and more customers that can purchase from you.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that a little bit, I think that part also adds a lot of value to the product. So when you're competing for that price, like when you're instead of selling the tumbler 15, people will really understand why you're charging 20 because they get to see everything you do, right? And so they'll be more accepting of a higher price, which you should be charging because you're paying for the machine.
A lot goes into that.
Yeah, a lot goes into that they don't see because Just because you show a tumbler with engraving doesn't mean like,
Yeah.
oh, that's easy. I'm like, no, it doesn't. No, it's not that easy.
Show yourself designing it and how the designing takes time.
Yeah.
You know, show it being engraved, show it being cleaned and packaged. Like this all takes time and work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that with that education, that value that we talk about, show the value. I think you'd really show it better than any image can show. Yeah.
The third pillar is really just proof, you know, and that's proof in your customer satisfaction. You know, that's showcasing your reviews, that's showing your customer reactions, it's showing those emails that come in like, wow, thank you so much, you've really made a difference in this order, in this product, in this person I gifted this to. If you get reviews on Etsy or Amazon or Google reviews, showcasing those, showing proof in the pudding that you are the expert at what you do. You do stand on quality and you do stand on premium products. And proof in the before and afters, you know, showcasing, hey, this is what I am starting with, and this is what I'm turning it into, and showing that evolution and proving to your viewers that you're different.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's a great way to end that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the three again are behind the scenes content, education content. You know, teach your customers on how you work, what you do. You know, show them that it's not easy, right? Show them there's a process. And then obviously proof. You have before your afters. You maybe even post your reviews. You basically show them proof of your work and why that value exists.
Yeah.
Right. That, hey, look, it went to somebody and they loved it. Right. So those are kind of your two things. Three things. And any kind of cadence that you would recommend as far as the like how many per day videos or how many per of the three or anything like that?
Yeah, you know, I would say just you know, you got to set like a weekly cadence. You got to be consistent with it. So really, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overcommit and then let yourself down, right? So think of a cadence that you can really manage, and maybe it's a weekly cadence of, let's just start with a few shorts, you know, a few short videos a week. Let's do one value post, you know, where you a little bit more in-depth value post that you can do on your product. You know, one proof customer review, and then really just doing stories as you can, right? Stories is one that kind of gets away from some people because they just forget about it. But think of the moment that you're in and try to capture that, right? The other day we were loading the van to take it to USPS and we said, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's put this on social media. Like, let's put this on the story, you know, we're freaking loading this van up, you know? And to you, it might seem, you know, very casual or it's very regular to you, but not everyone sees what you see through your eyes, you know? So don't be afraid to showcase that. You might think it's simple, but it's going to be intriguing to more people than you think.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny you bring that up. When I watched that video, again, I was like, oh my gosh, like if I would have known I was on camera, I would have acted differently. I would have worn something different. I would have said something different. And then at the end, I was like, no, I think that worked because it wasn't like that. It wasn't planned.
It was real.
Yeah, you just kind of got the camera. I'm like, you're on camera. I'm like, okay, here we go.
That's what the best happens. You know, but best things happen when it's real and authentic, and it's not scripted. It's not acted out. It's just like turning the camera on. Like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a good little bit on the social media. So be consistent and be fun. You know, be fun.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on here. Let's start wrapping this up a little bit, but let's kind of talk about a little bit about what Makerflo saw success in, and kind of just a checklist and close out this year and some words of advice for 2026. So, you know, as a bit of a recap for Makerflo for 2025, you know, where did we see some success and where did we see some changes that we've made going into 2026?
Well, I think our unclarity in 2025 led us to pivoting. I think when the international trade stuff was going, you and I got discouraged quite a bit, to the point where, I mean, mentally it was exhausting. It was like mental gymnastics every day.
Defeating.
It was defeating, right? But you know, we kept pivoting and pivoting and pivoting and pivoting. You know, I would say that as we move on to 2026, you know, always be ready, always be alert, you know, be ready for change. Don't let it put you down. I think yesterday we talk a lot about a lot of things. I don't mind letting you guys in on that. But yesterday I'd made a comment to you because, you know, because it's the end of the year and I was kind of reflecting and I was kind of telling you that every time that we feel defeated, you know, every time like this year, there were multiple times that we're like, oh my God, I think the world got the better of us, right? we need to make sure that we're doing something different. We need to make sure we're shaking things up. Don't sit there in defeat. Don't sit there babysitting your machine in defeat. You're losing money hourly and you're mentally losing. Don't do that to yourself, right? Get up, try something different. Try to get a different sale. Try to change things up in the shop. Maybe do something new, add a new product, just change things up a bit, just mix things up. But do it with clarity in mind, right? You're clear why you're doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, like that's the big thing is, it was pivoting and having that clarity that, hey, we need to do things differently, be different. And again, I think for us in 2025, the pricing thing was an epiphany, and we're very clear now on how we're pricing products and more so why we're pricing the products. I think a lot of people miss out on why they're pricing the products the way they are. And understanding our pricing and why we're doing it and who we're doing it for, I think changed the whole game for us. So if anyone's going to come and argue with me, which happens so much, is like your prices are too high, I have 10 reasons why they're priced that way, right? It's not because we want to be, billionaires. It's because I could spout out so many reasons. The pricing is the reason it is. And instead of telling you on video, come find us at APA, come to the shop, and I'll explain to you why our pricing is the way it is, right?
So many people say understand your why as a person, but it made me just think of understand your why on your pricing.
Yeah.
How about that mentality? Under really having an explanation for why your pricing is what it is. You have these babysitting costs, you have your product cost, and you have this profit and hourly margin that you want to make. Mm-hmm. Understanding that and getting clarity on that is really going to propel you to success in 2026.
Yeah. And I think it makes you more confident in your product and your business, right? When you go and you get a rejection on pricing, you're more confident in that no because you know why you priced it that way, right? But if you have no idea and you're asking around, you're like, what'd you price it? 35? Okay. And I come to you and be like, Mark, it's 35. And you go, I want it for 20. And you're sitting there going, well, I have no idea why. But okay, yeah, just to get the order, I'm going to do it for 20.
Yeah.
Well, if you have no idea why you priced it at 35, you're going to do whatever, right? So, yeah. Get a clue. Get an idea.
Then you're busy but broke.
Yeah, then you're busy but broke. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, busy plus broke is probably it's probably the biggest problem right now. And the problem with busy but broke is the cash flows coming in, but it's a slow bleed.
Yeah.
Right? Meaning the cash flows coming in, you're like, "Oh, I see the money coming in." You're barely paying the bills and it's like you're living paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. Right? You can't do anything else. And eventually you realize a year later that, oh my gosh, I'm way behind. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I love that.
Don't be that.
Don't be that.
Don't be that.
Busy but broke equals chaos. You don't want the chaos. So instead, clarity in everything. So, I encourage you guys as you go into 2026 is really just take a moment to just sit down by yourself, grab an old school journal. We got some new journals out,
Yeah.
Just grab a journal, grab a pen, get your favorite beverage. Maybe it's coffee, maybe it's tea, maybe it's a Red Bull, and just sit down to yourself and really just map out 2026. Just put the ideas down on paper. Just get started. Just put pen to paper, ink to paper, and write that down, right? Focus on the channel, right? We talked about the channel. Where do you want to sell? Mm-hmm. Focus on the product. What do you want to sell? What are your best sellers? What are your evergreen products? What are your seasonal products? What are your product boosters, right? Write these things down. And then pricing. Really spend some time on that pricing, understanding your babysitting cost, your product cost, and what you want to make. Everybody's going to be different on what you want to make hourly and monthly. And then, and then spending a little bit of time on the social media, on the marketing. How are you going to get that word out about yourself? What are you going to commit to and what are you going to post? And I really think you just intentionally spend an hour of time, ink to paper, and you'll see success in 2026.
Absolutely. I think that's sound advice.
Awesome. Well, guys, that wraps up at Makerflo Making with Purpose podcast. Thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop a comment, a question on any of our social medias, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We'd love to hear from you guys. Make sure you like this podcast and share it with all your friends, and we'll see you on the next one.